makes sound like a human when she's like, oh.
And you were approached by the police and knocked on the door, but then when they knew that they didn't have any evidence, so they didn't have to come by all bureaucracy, right? They have to go through the process.
We are watching the end of capitalism.
Yeah.
In a way, it's like we've spawned these very arrogant children.
Right now we're joined by Lawrence Fox, the candidate for London Mayor. What's happened there? You're now running for
Mayor.
Mayor. Well, Mayor is not happening, so instead Lawrence is going to do it for me.
Why aren't you running?
It's too much work.
It really is
Yeah.
hard work. It's Friday though, we have to decide whether we're going to have a Charles Walker
Milk.
or I think we'll go for it.
I mean, yeah. We can mix the milk with the beer.
That would be quite nice.
Yeah. So first, what's happening with the milk? Explain the milk.
The milk is, Charles Walker said he was going to walk around protesting the price of milk, which is also, he's protesting the lockdown.
Yeah.
One of the very few brave souls that is doing that. In the face of all the evidence. And I think it's really good. So I've actually managed to get this onto my belt buckle when I walk around, and people just think I'm weird, but I think I hope it catches on.
Yeah, okay. Also, for people who are gonna complain to Ofcom, it's technically 1 meter. We're 1 meter apart, so.
And we really, really care.
We don't want to ruin your campaign.
I've already ruined my campaign. I've had the police round.
Yeah, actually, yeah. So what happened there? Obviously, we're going to put the clip on the screen. You were approached by the police and knocked on the door. But then when they knew that they didn't have any evidence, so they didn't have to come by all bureaucracy, right? They have to go through the process.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why in a modern democratic society, a police would knock on anybody's door for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, unless they committed the crime. Yeah.
So I think we might be entering the land of non-crime crimes again.
Right.
Do you think that's where we're at?
Yeah, it seems to be, and I think a lot of people have been approached, whether it's around the lockdown issues or free speech, where they get approached, say, okay, we've heard complaints. Because what your situation? Because your situation was one person complained about you campaigning, but that they didn't have any evidence.
They had no evidence. I mean, they would have had some evidence.
Yeah.
Not that I was campaigning.
Well, because from a certain date you were allowed to campaign, you've been out campaigning anyway, so that's fine.
Yeah, but also I was at the anti-lockdown march, so it's like...
That's true, yeah.
I think they probably could have accumulated some evidence. I felt really sorry for the police.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to be doing that.
No.
And I met 2 policemen yesterday when I went to the extremely not crowded Parliament Square while they were voting through the extension to coronavirus laws. And they came over, they said they get, just in one borough, they're getting over 200 calls a day of people snitching on each other.
Wow. Yeah.
So welcome to East Germany.
Yes.
Circa post-war. It's crazy.
It's fascinating. I think regardless of which side you're on, whether it's on the lockdown issue or anything else, people could at least agree that some of the measures go too far. And when it comes to, again, free speech, when it comes to the attack on our culture and our heritage, because you're standing for London.
Yeah.
And Sadiq Khan has this new committee of diversity, which is very, very independent. Yeah, I know, it's very communistic. And so what's your message? What's your campaign about, basically?
I think primarily it's got to be to unlock London now. We're in the same place in terms of cases as we were in June last year with almost no restrictions, weren't we? And but the government, we've given them power, and they don't want to give it back to us, our liberty. We lent it to them and they don't want to give it back to us. So I think the most important thing is to unlock London immediately.
Right.
Really. We've had, I think 5 out of the 7 regions had no deaths last week or on a day, I'm not sure, but whatever it is, it's magnificently small.
Yes.
So I think it's massively overcautious, and it's people's lives and livelihoods are. The people on the march, these are working people. They didn't seem to be. They were just going, I've just got to get back to work. I'm desperate here. So I think that every day that it goes on is another cancer diagnosis missed, is another business going into, closure. It's lives we're dealing with, and the government are just sat there. They're not connected to anybody.
Yeah.
So they're just, I don't understand it. It's meant to be data, not dates, right? That's what he promised.
That's the thing. But on the other hand, there is a lot of skepticism when it comes to the 21st of June. Some people are still afraid that the government might find some sort of excuse to extend it. But if they don't extend it, if everything is going to go off like by May, June, some people might say that the election will be in May. Is this going to be the main platform to unlock? Is it going to resonate or?
Well, I think Look, obviously the main priority for what I care about is freedom of speech and debate and expression. That's the main Reclaim Party vibe. And COVID is just another example of the debate not being had. So I think it's important to highlight that. People have become sort of apathetic and they need permission to get back to work. And next time this happens, we need to have a proper debate about it. That's all I'm saying. It's like, if you'd allowed the Great Barrington Declaration and the Seneca-Gupta and the Patrick Hennigans, there would have been a debate, but there wasn't. It was goodies and baddies. It was the same as Brexit, the same with everything. It's a sort of cultural attack on anyone who happens to think slightly differently to other people.
I think that's the biggest problem, because you look at the opinion polls, and then let's just say how accurate or not accurate they are, like, in terms of the support for lockdown and all these measures. Putting that aside, doesn't mean that the chunk of society who are skeptical, the chunk of society who are sick and tired of this, don't need a voice. Just because a lot of people have been scared into being pro-lockdown, doesn't mean that every single party and politician should be just go with the consensus. There should always be some sort of opposition, because right now in Parliament, where is the opposition? Although the Lib Dems are doing well.
Lib Dems finally became
We agree
liberal.
with the Lib Dems now.
Amen. There's such a huge gap for the Liberals. Yeah, that's good. I'm glad that they've walked into that hole in the centre of politics, and we'll see what they are going to do in terms of the freedom of speech stuff, because I think they're still kind of stuck in woke territory when it comes to pronouns in bio and language abuses of language and biological denialism. I think they're still there.
Yeah.
But, I think anyone who says freedom of speech is crucial, because it is the only thing that you can say which is the difference between an authoritarian and a democratic society. It's it.
Yeah.
You've had experience of this. We're so, part of me is just like, we are watching the end of capitalism in a way. It's like we've spawned these very arrogant children who've come out and they've gone into our institutions and they're just trying to impose ideology on us all the time. They're not about free speech. So you have teachers will come out in support of teachers that want to enforce authoritarian measures like mask wearing. But if you come out and go, you're not allowed to show a cartoon of the Prophet Muhammad, they're all silent for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, on that note, this incident with one of the schools in the country where a teacher, just for showing a picture of Prophet Muhammad, got into trouble, and the controversy around it, that some parents are kicking off from obviously certain backgrounds, and the teaching unions, who are always very defensive of their teachers. Where are they?
Not this time, no. Well, it's I think it ties into this sort of general hard left hatred of Britain and its culture anyway. But you're sat there going, these kids in that school, right? So my kids are not they don't have the same politics as me. So your job as a parent is to free up your children to do whatever they believe in. And you can tell that these kids don't hold these very hardline ideological views. They just want to be part of Britain. They want to get on in our society and have the amazing freedoms and fairness that's thrown out. So we're as I've got me into trouble the first time, we're the most tolerant country in Europe. We're just after New Zealand and Canada in terms of the acceptance of all of the things that define a tolerant society.
That's the problem. You keep saying all these things, and we see in the Twitter, you keep tweeting them, and you keep talking about tolerance, and you're a fierce liberal, as you say as well, like an actual classical liberal. But then the intolerant side, that small chunk that are controlling the media and the political class, keep calling you and your ideology more hard right. You're sitting here complaining about authoritarianism, but so why are you hard right?
I think the problem is we got those are your debates, and on this side you got the authoritarians, and on this side you got the libertarians. And what's happened is they've just gone and they've chopped out the middle of the debate. So now the authoritarians, who would be balanced out by the libertarians, because that's what society does, are now very heavy in the chat, and it's like, if I could see any benefit to it, I would go, great. But in the name of tolerance, progressivism, all of this crap that we're thrown all the time, it's not. It's the exact opposite. And it touches everything.
Yeah.
The female thing bothers me as well. How misogynistic it is.
Yes.
It's like stop it. They're women.
Right.
That's a bloke. He can call himself Jane.
Yeah.
That's totally fine by me, and we will show tolerance and respect and understanding for what you are. But you're a bloke.
There's this issue right now, again with this debate, whether it's right or wrong, or what side is correct or not. The left, the identity politics side of it, they're now divided because now the feminists are attacking the other side. Like they're all supposed to be on the same side, but even they're divided because of this issue.
What do you think, though? I mean, what's your vibe on it?
But firstly, I mean, it's weird that sometimes they make me agree with the hardline feminists. Like, you know, J.K. Rowling, I'm defending her now. Because, you know, you should be allowed to debate it. You should be allowed to say what you think. Again, you might be wrong.
You will be wrong half the time.
That's the problem, the issue, and that's what your platform is. You know, it's not just making the position on, this milk is definitely white. Your point is you should be allowed to say if it's white or yellow or green. But one side say that, you know, no, we've decided it's white, and you just can't even challenge it. And that's the problem that we're facing right now. Yeah. Back to your candidacy. Why are you running? Sadiq Khan says, you know, it's a 2-horse race, and, you know, Sean Bailey says that too. And they're probably right that, you know, in terms of the way the party system works, that, you know, it's going to be one of those two. What is the point of smaller candidates running, smaller parties running? Is it going to change anything? You're just going to do a shake-up, or?
I think the most important thing is, as you say, there's this section of the population that aren't being represented. So you've got, it is a race to who's going to be the slowest to release lockdown, which is ridiculous. I don't think Sean Bailey seems like a really lovely guy, but I just don't think he's kind of landed.
No one still knows in London who he is. That's a problem.
Yeah, we did some polling and stuff on this, and I think he's great, but he doesn't seem to have landed. I do think that someone needs to ask Sadiq Khan whether he likes the statue of Queen Victoria outside of Buckingham Palace. Because how can you have a mayor of a capital city who hates everything about the culture he's there to be custodian of for the period of time that he is the mayor? And, you know, also I think there's a problem with his way of looking at diversity, because London is obviously an extremely diverse city. And we celebrate that fact, because, you know, that we're welcoming, we want people from all different regions and areas to come and join us. But his identity-based politics I hate. I hate the way that, you know, he lets a little Trump balloon fly up.
It's silly.
I'm just like, mate, there's so many problems. You've got soaring knife crime, you've got a housing crisis that you've done absolutely nothing about compared to what you've promised. And you're dividing London's neighbourhoods up by the low traffic neighbourhoods, and you know, you're telling people what is and isn't a necessary journey for them. And for me, I don't like being told what to do, as I imagine most people don't like being told what to do. They like government to be there to protect their most basic liberties. They don't want government to be there to tell them how they can and can't live. Because and I think that someone has to stand up to Sadiq over that. Just purely, and I don't think Sean Bailey will do it. So I need to do it, and we'll see. You know, whether he sends around any.
But that's the thing. I've seen that you've been speaking to some experts from different areas. They've been in your videos, whether it's the police or others. But the one advantage that the big parties always have is that they have people ready in case they win. Then they have every policy area covered. Do you also have kind of plans in terms of big policies? And the issues actually affect Londoners, as you said. It's not the statues, it's, you know, the everyday, but there's transport or housing or everything else. Do you have everything kind of prepared?
Well, yeah, I do, and I think one of the so there is a bonus to being a big party in the fact that you can do all that, but there is a problem with being a big party. You know, certainly over stuff like housing, is the fact that your major donors are property developers who are holding on to land prices in the hope that they'll go up. So for me, I look at housing, for example, and I go, this is solvable. Like, it can be dealt with. And the main political parties are like, well, that's really difficult.
That's been a problem for years now.
You're like, this is solvable, right? Just speak to Liam Halligan. This is how we solve this. It's not rocket science. No. And so I suppose that's what I can promise, which is that I would just get the job done. And I would, you know, because I'm not a politician, I'm just a citizen who cares about our country and our culture, that you just go, we can solve this. This doesn't, it's not the end of the world. So I think there are obviously advantages to being a major political party, but I think there's even more advantages just being a concerned citizen. Who wants to go in there and go, what's going on? Right, why are there no houses being built? Also, why is the crime so high? And who is reporting this? And why is there a two-tier policing system, guys? What's going on? No, people don't want that. But, you know, we'll see. I think my goal would be to get to talk to Sadiq. Just ask him a few questions.
Well, I mean, we've had a debate between Bailey and Khan.
Yeah.
It's
There's freedom of speech for you, isn't it?
But that's the thing. Are the media going to have a platform for other candidates to scrutinise Sadiq Khan? Have you heard anything? Or?
They should do. If you live in a free and fair democracy, they should do, shouldn't they? I mean, they had this problem in Wales the other day, didn't they? They were like, we're going to have the top three parties, Conservative, Labour and Plaid Cymru, and then they realised it was three blokes.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, we're going to have a bird on. So they got a girl on, and it's just like, it should be a proper debate.
Yeah.
You know, it should be like the, excuse me, thank you, Charles.
It's the milk.
It should be like the primaries in America.
Yes.
You know, and you get your Eric Swalwells, who get no one votes for, or Bloomberg, but you know that's how it should operate.
But that's the thing. I mean, to play the devil's advocate at this point, the main focus for a lot of Londoners who are sick and tired of Sadiq Khan is to get rid of him. But there are a lot of options right now. There's so many of you running against him. You're all going to split each other's votes. What's happening?
I do speak to the guys, and I go, look.
Who's going to stand down?
Well, I know it's not so much stand down because I actually really admire the kind of entrepreneurial spirit on the liberty-loving side of the argument. So everyone's like, I'm going to start a political party. So am I.
Yeah.
I'm going to study. I'm going to do it too.
It's a democracy, yeah.
Yeah, and you love it, but we end up shooting ourselves in the foot. But I think what would be great, I've spoken to a few. I did a deal with Richard Tice.
Okay.
So he said, I'll stand on the assembly, you stand for mayor. So we can do these things.
Yes.
And you know, but I think it's great that people. So I'm divided between guys. Let's get behind Loz and we can go after Sadiq. But on the other hand, I'm like, good for you.
Yep.
So I'm divided.
We'll see. Final question: are you going to cause more trouble before the election?
Yeah, I absolutely am going to cause more trouble by doing absolutely normal things that I
are illegal now.
Total right to do, because it's your freedom. And also it's not about me, it's about the idea. And the idea is freedom. Do you want it or do you want to give it to someone else? I would say hold on to it yourself.